Review Board. Tonight's special meeting is regarding the officer-involved shooting that occurred on January 24th, 2022. Do we have our Vice Chair, Dr. Venelia Hardin? I'm not sure if Venelia is here. I just want to make sure we have a quorum to be able to vote this evening. And as I'm looking, I just want to start the meeting by allowing board members, as you know, we are going to be voting this evening on whether or not to move forward with investigation. If anyone has any anything that they would like to discuss, now is your time to do so. I'm opening up the floor to board members for discussion. After that, I will open it to the public if anyone has a comment, and then from there we can go forward with the vote.
Roby, this is Matt. Just a question. Is Venelia here, or are other board members here? I only see you, Zach, John, and me, I think.
I was on with Venelia, Batman, and Victor. I don't know if they are still in the other meeting. So I will, I'm going to just turn off my camera for a second and go on mute and contact them to make sure they can get onto the right meeting. I'm sorry again, just give me one. Okay, they should have the correct email or the correct Zoom link, and they should be joining. While we wait for the
recording in progress.
While we wait for the rest of the board members, again, if any board members has any comments that they would like to add to discuss, please do so at this time. John, do you have a comment?
Yes, I would just like to say that a vote on us moving forward with investigation, in my opinion, is not a judgment on justification for or against with regards to the shooting. I think with Willa J now, we obligation, and with the vote of a pretty sizable majority from the citizens of Albany, have an obligation to investigate incidents like this. I think the voting kind of speaks for itself, and the gravity of this situation and the seriousness of this situation is something where, as a body or a view body, we have an obligation to do something. I kind of want to say that with regards to moving forward, this is an opportunity for us to create amongst ourselves and a document that is objective. It's something we own. It's something that we are responsible for and we can answer to. Us meeting, we met with the department. We had what I felt was good conversations, open conversations as much as possible with regards to the shooting, seeing the video clips and from multiple units. But at the end of the day, we have a responsibility as the CPRB to be that community step of investigation. And I just kind of want to say, from our vote here, it's not, in my opinion, it's not a judgment on if it was a justified shooting or not. I think it's our responsibility with regards to the law that was passed by referendum to look into incidents like this.
And John, thank you for that. I do see Dr. Harden. If you could, can you take roll call for us just to make sure we have quorum today before we get into any votes?
Absolutely. So obviously, Nairobi, you're here. Batman.
Here.
We have Zach.
Here.
Reverend Collier.
I believe Reverend Collier is excused.
Okay. Victor Pearson.
Hello?
Yep, okay, present. And John.
Present.
And Matt.
Here.
All right. And I'm Vanilla Harden.
Thank you for that. And John, yes, to your comments, tonight's vote, obviously, we are asking our board members to vote on whether or not we're going forward with an investigation. I agree with you. The public has voted overwhelmingly for our board to have the power to investigate, to bring accountability, to bring transparency. So that is a great responsibility that we have, and we'll remain objective, like you said. We're not voting on whether the shooting is justified or not tonight. We're just voting on whether to move forward. I will add my comments just to give. There's a lot of members of the public here. The board, obviously, we saw the footage that was released to the public, but we were also able to see with members of the OPS and Corporation Council, we saw portions of 3 body-worn cameras from officers that were present on the scene. From that, I will speak on my own thoughts of what we saw while we were able to have an open discussion, ask questions to OPS, and they gave us all the information that they were able to give us. It's my thought that there are still a lot of questions that are open that we, as a board, I think it's our responsibility to look more further into. And for that, I think that we do need to investigate. I will allow, if there's any other points of discussion, I know that there are some board members that were not able to see the full footage that some of us were able to see because of scheduling issues. But if anyone else wants to weigh in before we open it up to to any public comment, feel free to do so. Just unmute yourself and go ahead.
Nairobi, this is Zach. I think it's incumbent upon this board to use the authority that was entrusted to us by the voters and launch a truly independent investigation, whether through an official complaint, independent, or both, that's free from bias and insulated from public pressure to ensure procedural justice for Mr. Young and everyone else involved. Specifically, I'm interested in the decision-making process regarding allocation of tasers. I also want to see a digital reconstruction of all events, including location data from any devices in Mr. Young's possession, associated 911 calls, and location data from body-worn cameras, cruisers for all officers involved, data from tasers and body-worn cameras, the time the target officer fired the rounds, and also the time of the officer deployed the taser, surveillance footage from private and public cameras in the vicinity, more info on the knife Mr. Young allegedly possessed, including chain of custody reports. Also, what applicable academy field training exercises and ongoing training did those officers and officers in general receive in defensive tactics, street survival skills, decision-making and implicit bias, stop, question, and frisk, officer wellness and emotional survival, and specifically nighttime firearms training and nighttime's close quarters hand-to-hand combat. Also, I think we need an explanation about the glitch in the body-worn camera footage. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Do any other board members have anything to discuss or anything to add?
Yeah, in Nairobi, this is Matt.
Hey, Matt.
I'm just going back to the core mission of the board, right, to build trust between the community and the police department. We bring this up a lot in our own discussions, right? We've brought it up a lot in our public meetings. That trust is supposed to flow both ways, right? From the community towards the police and from the police towards the community. And beyond that, also between the police and the board and the community and the board. So there's at least sort of three different axes along which that trust is supposed to flow. At first glance, I think after looking at some of the videos or maybe like the very focused part where it looks like Mr. Young is charging the officer and the officer is retreating and then fires his weapon. I think it's at first glance it might be tempting for some observers to say, well, that looks pretty justified. Right? It's hard to think of what else to ask of officers, perhaps. And so we should resolve it that way, right? That it's justified. But I just want to second what John has said and what Zach has said, right? That would be a very superficial assessment of our role here, right? Our role is not to make decisions at first glance or on a cursory basis. And even if we think that the shooting might eventually be justified, it's still our responsibility. It's incumbent upon us to take the time and look at everything. And I like the idea of, it's not that I like our idea, but I think it's also incumbent upon us. It's our job to leave some very clear, well-documented, written explanation of all the evidence that we reviewed and how we reached our decisions, right? Some of the same things that Zach just mentioned. So I think we need to be thorough. We need to be thoughtful, right? We need to take our time. We may well resolve this as a justified shooting or possibly as in some other way. But I think the main decision facing us tonight is just whether to be thorough and thoughtful and actually go through the steps, right, of doing a good evaluation of the evidence and documenting our thought process and our deliberations. So that's where I am. Again, just seconding some of the things that have been said already.
Thank you, Matt. Any other board members?
Hello?
Hi, Victor.
Yes. Just some of the things that Zach talked about, and I have questions. I did see the video, and I think I could have seen maybe 2 different versions, if I'm not mistaken. And so I just have questions to them, which I presented to them at the time, and they kind of explained that they were still investigating and waiting on results of forensics and stuff of that nature. So I just have questions about why did the after the direct shooting, why did the video turn off just all of a sudden? And it was off for a good 30 to 60 seconds. And so I just have that question, and a question of why 2 very young police officers who neither one was on the job more than 10 months. And so I just have questions about that I would like to present to the board, and strongly agree that we need to take the next step. That's all I got.
Thank you, Victor. Do we have any other board members' comments? If not, I see that we do have a lot of members of the public. If anyone does want to speak, I am on my cell phone right now because of the complications that my computer was causing, because it's signed into the CPRB account. So if someone else can see hands, feel free to call people out. But if there are members of the public that would like to speak before we call for a vote, feel free to do so at this time.
Tabitha Wilson is raising her hand.
Good evening. Thank you for your work. Thank you all for your service. So this is just strictly an amateur citizen's perspective, and I'm wondering if this is coming under your scope of work also. So I didn't have the pleasure of seeing the video because I can't watch certain videos like that. I've never watched the George Floyd video, for example. However, I did listen to the family's testimony on the news when they had a press conference with CFLJ, and certain elements that appear to, and I'm wondering if this is coming into your scope of work after hearing what you want to investigate and what you want to remain neutral from. For one, it seems like, just as far as a counter narrative, because we heard one narrative, that there doesn't appear to be a robbery that can be identified that was in place. There doesn't appear to have been an identifiable phone call. I think you mentioned that. And there appears to have been the brother or sibling being taken into custody, but not being apprised that their, family member was shot. There's other elements, right? So I'm just curious if those come under your scope of work as reviewing the larger police work, because I know that you're kind of looking at specifically the point of impact currently. But then also, does this also inform how we can, to quote Lauren Manning, and I'm not certain if she's on the line, there cannot be another Jordan, because this seems to me, again, amateur, not an attorney or anything, extrajudicial. Like, typically you're apprehended. Let's say crime is in place, you're apprehended, you see a judge, and then things happen. But currently this person is not doing well as far as the injuries they sustained. And, as far as people who are shot, you're typically maimed, regardless of where you're hit and things of that nature. It's a life-altering event. So these are things to consider. They tend to be concentrated in certain areas and concentrated among certain people. So I think that's something to consider also, if that's coming under your scope of work. And as far as whether justification, I think you can't know people's mental illness status or pre-existing status. But it seems like what's being asserted, and I'm remaining neutral, I don't have all the facts, I didn't see the video, heard somewhat statements from one side and others. But it seems like this person has an existing relationship and was known to them, and has basically asserted that they've been for lack of a better term, experience in police brutality. So does that come under your scope of work also? So those are like the main questions I wanted to state while I had it on my mind. Thank you.
Hi, Tabitha. Thank you for joining. I will field that. I just want to be clear. Tonight, we're just voting on whether to move forward, but our investigation will, many of the things that you brought up are things that we all have questions on, and our investigation will include all of those things. We want to have a full picture of the interaction with the police on January 24th, and then we've also heard of a previous arrest. We want to look into everything, and we believe that the scope of local law J gives us the power to do so. So we will have a full investigation and get a complete picture of what happened, as complete as possible, having not been there firsthand. Thank you for all those points that you brought up. I don't want to name them and miss something, but all the things that you brought up are when I said I think it's incumbent upon us to move forward with an investigation because there are so many questions at this point that can't be answered right now. Those are some of the things that were coming to mind, and we know our community also has questions and wants answers on everything that has happened, and we want to provide that to all of you. So I hope that answered your question.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to raise my hand. I'm not good with technology. I'm Alice Freeman, Center for Law and Justice. I'm also wondering if you will be looking at things that were not on the video, because the key issue for us is why Jordan Young was stopped in the first place, and the police have made a big issue out of Mr. Jordan supposedly holding a knife to his dog's throat. And but I watched these videos. I haven't seen any of that, and I've not seen anything regarding his niece's testimony that she was talking to him on the phone during that period of time before the police shot him. So will you go beyond what is on that video? I know you mentioned the 24th. You'll be looking into that as well. So, but the key issue regarding why they stopped it has, revolves around this issue around with the knife at the dog's throat. And so I'm just asking if do you consider that important in this whole investigation?
Dr. Green, thank you for joining us. Absolutely. We I want to let everyone know that we haven't seen much more than the public has seen. The portions of the body cam footage that we saw, we have seen more. We've gotten asked more questions, but we do also have questions about what happened before the police came upon Jordan, and those are all of the things that are in my mind of questions that I would like to have answered and to look at. I will open it up to any other board member that wants to weigh in, but that is one of the things that we would like to look into.
Really quick, I'll jump in. That's absolutely a question that we all had, and specifically when we first watched the footage, we were informed that there's a lot of additional footage, different camera angles and things like that. So those different camera angles should be available, which should give us some insight into Mr. Young's state, at the time of the stop or the interaction itself.
I agree that there also, certain pieces of information that were not available, the 911 call, things like that, are very interesting to us, and we think will provide additional information that that we need. Any other board member, any other member of the public have a question or comment?
I do, but Garion was first.
Okay. I can't see the hands raised, but Garion, you can go first. And Lauren, I think that is you. You can go after that.
There's also a Mr. Rigosu that would like to go after Lauren.
Right, Rigosu. Thank you.
Okay, that order is fine.
Okay, so I just wanted to state that I feel a full investigation needs to happen. At this time, you guys are the middleman between the public and the police, and we are asking for clarity. We are asking for transparency, and you are who needs to speak for us in that way. But something I wanted to talk about was the mental health and de-escalation processes that the police are utilizing. The chief of police in Albany stated to the public in his press conference that de-escalation techniques were used, although there were 60 seconds worth of time. I am trained heavily in de-escalation techniques, so I'm wondering how many hours are the police receiving in mental health training and de-escalation? When the chief was asked that, he did not give a clear answer. So I'm wondering if that can also be part of the investigation. And again, I'm really urging that you guys push forward with that. Thank you.
I just want to quickly chime in to her point. This is Cornelia Harden. That those are the same questions that we asked. I was very interested in that as well, because from what I saw, it was hard to tell that any de-escalation tactics were utilized. So our investigation, with all the things other members said, will be inclusive of that.
Thank you for that. I believe Lauren was next.
Hey, you guys. I'm gonna wear my Adiabro resident hat because my boss is on the phone now. I want to get fired. But yes, I am in full support of you guys investigating this. But additionally, there has to be somebody looking into the extreme cruelty currently being shown to Jordan by having him under police custody 7 days later with no charges, effectively barring his family members from being by his side to be there with him and encourage his recovery. I think we are on day 8 and nobody can tell us why he is under police custody with no charges other than to keep the family away. And that's a level of cruelty that we shouldn't expect from our professional police force.
Lauren, thank you for that. This is a lot of the reason why we open our meetings up. Well, we have to, but also every time we do, we get great information on things that we should be looking to. I will talk with OPS about the current state and see what information we can get. But thank you for bringing that to our attention. I think there was another gentleman that was after Lauren.
Yes, I believe it was myself, Vincent Ricuso.
Yes.
First and foremost, the purpose of this Zoom is should you or should you not go forward with an investigation? And I, for one, believe you should go forward with an investigation. As a citizen in Eagle Hill, when I first saw some of the videos, the first thing that came to my mind, there were 3 police officers behind the car. The person had not started charging the police officers yet. So I want you to keep in mind that in a police officer, I have a billy club, I have a blackjack, and I have defensive training that I am giving at the police academy. I personally felt that any one of those policemen could have overtaken him. Now, when that gentleman when he's charging me with a knife, and I didn't think the knife was overly big. It wasn't a stiletto or anything that I would chop hay with, but I felt that he could have been succumbed by any one of those policemen or two or three of them. So and the other thing that came to my mind is, why did you shoot him? Why wasn't some type of force by one of the policemen or all of the policemen to subdue him? So the other thing too, I do want to say, and they keep on bringing up that the guy had mental problems. Well, now I'm going to be on the other side of the police car. When somebody is charging me, I can't tell whether the person has a mental problem. That was the other thing. That possibly might have been a plus for the Albany policeman. But as far as all the other thing, I think if you listen to Zach's presentation prior to me talking and answer all his questions, they would answer all the questions of all the citizens in the city of Albany. And I'm going to leave it at that. But again, I do want to reiterate, the purpose of this meeting is to say, should we or should we not go forward? And I believe we should go forward with it. I think there's a lot of questions that has to come out and has to be answered for the general public. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to say anything before we vote?
Lena's Beauty, I see, hand up.
Please go ahead.
Hi, I'm a member of the community, and I would just like to say I do apologize for anybody that is a person of color that is experiences this traumatic experience. That's the first thing I want to leave off. This is horrible. Nobody should be going through this, but I would like to say I was kind of put off with the vote because we us as the people put y'all in here automatically, like to investigate things like this, but I do understand the democracy of it. I would like to also say that with his mental health status, what are the steps are about this investigation that we're going to be looking? You are going to be looking into. Like, what is the steps and procedures and stuff?
So, for any investigation that we do, this is pretty new to us, this piece, but we will be looking into talking to witnesses, just gathering all of the information that we can. Some of the questions that Zach presented and some of the other members that were presented, we'll be looking to answer those questions too. If there's footage from surrounding businesses or homes, we will be looking to get that, the 911 call, previous interactions with the police that we talked about. But as we get more information about what happened and get access to more evidence, those questions will continue to lead us down the path of how we will investigate. We would need to decide whether or not we are going to bring on an outside investigator and make some of those decisions going forward. Tonight, you talked about the democracy of it. Tonight, we are just taking the step of having to take the formal vote of the board members in a public forum so that we can move forward with it. But as we are always looking to be transparent with our community members, we will answer some of those questions of what, where the investigation is taking us, what questions we are answering, and how we will be moving forward with that. So we will probably have more meetings like this one where we will answer more questions going forward as we have that information. Thank you, and I agree with you apologizing to, for this trauma that we are discussing tonight. I know it is hard for a lot of us to there anyone else that has a comment before we vote?
I see a Casey Charles and then Saratoga Black Lives Matter.
Hello, I'm Casey Charles. I'm from the Black Abolitionist Directive, but I'm also a community member of the South End. I would like to put special emphasis on investigating their de-escalation training as a whole. Specifically because I'm pretty sure everyone remembers Arch Street, where the chief of police said publicly that he had he and his department have consistently gone through LGBTQIA plus training and actually had not been trained formally by any organization, including In Our Own Voices, which he specifically mentioned since before he was actually the police chief. I would like to know the accredited organization that he uses for his de-escalation training and the rate in which they are trained, and how that training is, the steps that they take, because I'm not sure what kind of training they have if it only takes 60 seconds and you still get the same result. That's it. And I would like for you guys to investigate this.
Harold, you're on mute.
Saratoga Black Lives Matter would be up next.
Yep, we're here. I would have to say that the main thing that we want to say about it is obviously, I think the most important thing, first thing, is what Lauren Manning was saying. I'm definitely going to piggyback off of that. The family needs to be able to see their loved one, especially when he's inside the hospital in critical care right now. So that's number one before anything. And obviously, we want to make sure that this investigation happens. We want to also make sure that this is really an independent investigation. We don't want an investigation where there's ties to say that we have to be equal with the police as we do with the public. I think it's all about the public. That's what public safety means. It's about the public. So we need to be going with the community once. We need to see you guys actually do exactly what we said that this was going to be for. We can definitely say that we were all stakeholders who were a part of fighting for this local law in J to make sure that you guys have these powers. So we're just going to make sure that hopefully you guys do what you say. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? It doesn't seem like we have any more comments. Thank you for everyone that did participate, who put in their input. Everything that you said is taken into account and taken seriously. We do see all of you as stakeholders. We do understand that we have powers because our community has pushed for them, and we take our role very seriously. With that, I am calling for the board members. Do I have a motion to investigate the officer-involved shooting on January 24th involving Jordan Young?
Motion made.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We've already had our discussion beforehand. So all in favor, aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. So moved. The CPRB will be investigating the officer-involved shooting of Jordan Young. Thank you all for attending. As I said, we will likely have many more of these meetings to let you all know the status of the investigation forward. Thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight, and we will look into many of the things that you all brought up. With that, may I have a motion? I'm moving to adjourn tonight's meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank
Good night, everybody.
Good night.